Hi everyone, it's Miss Chalice. We're going to talk about pronouns today, so please make sure that you have your pronoun web in front of you and a pencil so that you can follow along. You're sometimes going to need to fill in definitions. Sometimes you're going to need to fill in the pronouns around the outside, maybe sometimes both. So you want to definitely make sure that you're following along. Sometimes the pronouns and definitions are in the book, and sometimes I say them, so you need to listen and follow along. All right, this book is by Ruth Heller. She both did the illustrations and the writing. It's called Mine, All Mine, and it's a book about pronouns. I do want you to notice as you follow along that it makes it easier for you because the pronouns are all in color, and so it really makes them pop and help you pick them out. So mine, all mine. Pronouns take the place of nouns, so we don't have to say, Mike said, Mike walked Mike's dogs today. Mike walked Mike's dogs a long, long way. How boring. What we say would be without the pronouns, isn't he? King Cole would call for King Cole's pipe, King Cole would call for King Cole's bowl, and King Cole's fiddlers three. On and on. Oh, it makes me yawn. It's awkward and wordy, the rhythm is gone. And so hooray, hip hip hooray for personal pronouns. Find personal pronouns on your web. And a personal pronoun takes the place of a person or a thing. And they're the most common. You can write that down. And then there are plenty of personal pronouns for you to write around the outside of your web. Remember, you can always pause the video or rewind if you need to. And so hooray, hip hip hooray for personal pronouns. You, it, them, they, for us and we, and I and me, for him and her, and he and she. These are the most common pronouns we use, but sometimes it's tricky to know which to choose. Which should it be? The king is him or the king is he? Reverse the sentence and you'll see he is the king, so the king is he. The right way to say the reverse would be the king is he. You would not say the king is him. Incorrect grammar. Are these for he and I, or are they for him and me? Try each pronoun separately. They aren't for I, they are for me. They are for him and not for he. So they're for him and me. You wouldn't say they are for he and I. That would be incorrect grammar. Does he draw better than her, or does he draw better than she? The missing word is draws. He draws better than she draws, so he draws better than she. Most people say this incorrectly. They would say he draws better than her. But that is not correct grammar. We brag, so we, not us, Americans brag, of 50 stars upon our flag. But she told us, so she told us boys, that we were making too much noise. You wouldn't say she told we boys. That wouldn't make sense. All right, find your personal pronouns. Hopefully they're all filled in. And then locate possessive. Possessive shows ownership. Some personal pronouns are also possessive. All these presents are impressive. They are mine. They are all mine. How handsomely their ribbons shine. So mine and their are possessive pronouns. If I said everyone stood on his head, I'd be correct, but not quite fair, because there are some females there. His or her head is what I really should have said. And please notice that if we were parsing, his would be an adjective. Technically, it's a possessive pronoun adjective, but I don't want to make you write that every time, so I've chosen for you to label it as an adjective because it answers an adjective question. Whose head? His head. So I still want you to write it down as a possessive pronoun because it could be by itself. You could say the book is his, and when his is by itself and not in front of a noun, it's going to be a pronoun. So get those down. Some other possessive pronouns that you might want to write down are hers, ours, mine, its, theirs, yours. There might be some more at the end as well. And then we're going to move on to demonstrative pronouns located on your web. Demonstrative has the root word demonstrate. That means that you're pointing something out or you're indicating something. Demonstrative pronouns make it clear. Those are far, these are near. So those and these, both demonstrative pronouns. They point out decisively. This is she and that is he. So this and that are also demonstrative pronouns. Moving on, locate indefinite pronouns. Indefinite are non-specific. That means they're unclear. They're vague. You could use that word in your definition as well. Indefinite pronouns are vague instead. Many behind, few ahead. We don't know how many is many or how few are few. Someone sleeping in my bed. Someone is another indefinite pronoun. When you see that in a sentence, you don't know who that is. It's vague. All right, moving on to reflexive pronouns. Reflexive pronouns refer to another noun or pronoun in the sentence. Get some down around the outside of your web. Reflexive pronouns end in self. This messy elf just helped himself. Reflexive pronouns are intensive when they emphasize or stress. He himself made this mess. He made this mess himself. He is a messy elf. The elf seems more offensive with the use of the intensive. You do not have intensive on your web. You don't need to worry about that. I just want to mention it. But if you've got himself, you also have herself, ourselves, themselves, itself. Moving on, reflexive. Still continuing with reflexive. Reflexive plurals end in selves. The other elves amuse themselves. Pronouns can ask questions too. Find your interrogative pronouns. And interrogative pronouns are in interrogative sentences and help to ask a question. So you've got all those question words around it. Pronouns can ask questions too. Interrogative pronouns do. Who had a nose that grew and grew? Who is taking the place of a person, so it's a pronoun, but it is unclear and it's asking a question, so it's an interrogative. And you kind of have an allusion to Pinocchio on this page. Relative pronouns make a connection. We do not have a bubble on our map for relative because I find them to be confusing for people. They are some of the same as the interrogative, but they're not asking a question is the main difference. So I just want you to be aware of them, but you do not need to write these down. Relative pronouns make a connection. Here is Narcissus who loved his reflection. Another allusion, this time to Greek mythology. These are all winners. There's no way you can lose. You will be a champion whichever one you choose. Whichever is a relative pronoun too. When should you say whom, and when should you say who? Whom is the one to whom something is done, and who is the one who does it? She is the one who was dressed in red, to whom the carnivorous grandmother said, "The better to eat you with, my dear." So that's just how to use correct grammar with who and whom. All right, on this page, you might want to pause it and get down anything in your bubble that you do not have. You will never be outclassed if you put I or me last. Say he and I, or him and me, not me and him, or I and he. Just a little more grammar. I is always going to be a subject. Me is always going to be at the end of the sentence. All right, that was a little book about pronouns. You're going to need this web, hopefully filled in now. You're going to be using these pronouns in the future, so 3-hole punch this and put it in your binder. Remember, if you've got any questions, bring them into class. See you later.